did 2 quite intense readathons this month, as well as taking part in the Social Distance Book Fest, so you better hope that I read everything on my TBR. Welcome to my April wrap-up. Yes, I did mention that Social Distance Book Fest, which was a big part of my month of April. So in case you haven't seen my panel, I will leave that linked up above, and I will also leave the playlist of all the panels in case you didn't catch any of them, linked in the description box for you as well, so that you get a chance to go and see any that you missed out on. They were an amazing array of authors and panels and meetups, and the wrap-up that we did right at the end gives you some facts and figures for the day, which are like mind-blowing. Welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel, as well as on my blog, which is always linked in the description box, along with all my socials. If you want to keep up on my reading in between times, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss out on future bookish content or the movie content that I bring you at the weekend as well. Let us jump into what I read in between all these readathons and book fests in the month of April. I didn't read quite as much as I read in March. However, I did still read everything I put on my TBR, so I'm quite happy with that. First of all, let's talk about The Secret Seaside Escape by Heidi Swain. It would be good if I gave it its correct title. This one is a gorgeous contemporary romance, women's fiction, whatever you want to call it, set at the seaside on the Norfolk coast, and very much has the theme of switching off from social media and all the technology which we have here, which please don't do until the end of this video, but then go away and read this book and immerse yourself in that instead. It's very lovely and I highly recommend it. I have a review of it on my blog, which, as I said, is linked down below. I also have a review on my blog of Mum's Big Break by Louise Emma Clarke, which kind of is the opposite of the Heidi Swain novel, in that this features a mummy blogger and her adventures online and in social media, but does have that important message of not everything you see on Instagram is 100% that person's life. There's other stuff going on behind the camera. There's more than just those hashtags to that person. And I really loved this second book by this author featuring mummy blogger Jess. I enjoyed it, and this is written in diary form, which is always a big hit for me and means that it reads a lot quicker somehow. I don't know why diary form books just read quicker for me, but they do. I think it's like, oh, I'll just get to the end of the month and then, oh, but I need to see what happens next, and then, oh, I'll just read the next day, and I think I just end up reading it all. And I did stay up late reading this one, which you will see from my Reading Rush reading vlog, which will be linked up here for you. Then we have Rules for Being a Girl by Candace Bushnell and Katie Cotugno. I was excited to read this because of the combination of authors. I've read Candace Bushnell before, but not Katie Cotugno. I've met Candace Bushnell as well. How amazing is that? Creator of Sex and the City. Anyway, that was a total fangirl moment. But this is a young adult novel that features the inequality that still exists for people that say that, you know, we've won the right for like equal rights. We've won the fight for equal rights. Read this book and then come back and tell me that we actually have. The double standards within schools for girls' uniform, the fact that teachers are in a position of power, especially when they're male teachers, and why should they automatically be believed over those female students, and a whole thing. I was blown away by this book. It was a very quick read because I just had to keep turning the pages and I had to keep reading to find out more. Really recommend it. Have a review of it on my blog. Then we have some books that I read for the Social Distance Book Fest. We have Running by Natalia Sylvester. Our main character, her father is running for president. They live in Miami. I don't think I've read anything set in Miami before, and this book features heavily on identity and family and coming of age, and I just was here for it, and I loved it, and I loved getting to interview Natalia as part of that panel as well. Oh, if you like my mug, I do have my discount code for Enchanted Fandom in the description box below. It's always down there. Today we have the Yoda one, which matches my Darth Vader out of print read Use the Force t-shirt. And then another one from my Social Distance Book Fest panel, which is completely different to running. This is The Year of Witching by Alexis Henderson. I believe Running and The Year of Witching are both out in July, unless one's June and one's July. I will double check, but I will leave it in the description box, or leave a comment in the comment section letting you know. The Year of Witching, again, strong theme of identity running through here, strong theme of family and kind of very much coming of age again, which is why they were grouped together in this panel, because this does have witches and feminism and is a bit spooky and a bit gory. And if you watch the panel, Alexis talks about bits of it keeping her up at night and not being able to sleep. So if that's your jam, highly recommend pre-ordering this one. Then we have another one that I read during the Reading Rush Readathon. This is Sea Breezes at Brightwater Bay, which is set in Orkney, which was perfect for the prompt of somewhere you want to go, because I really, really want to visit Orkney, always have, and I feel like I have now that I've read this book. This book also features a sexy librarian, so if you are down for that, highly recommend this series. Parts 1 and 2 are out now. Part 3 is coming out soon, so you've got a chance to catch up before you read part 3. I like Holly Hepburn's multi-part things, but they are so spaced out. It's so hard to wait for the next one to come. It's really difficult waiting from like January to April and then to July and October, but they are coming out in a bind up, so if you want to just be patient and wait and visit Orkney in November when they come out in a whole paperback, then by all means go ahead and do that. Then I also read The Switch by Beth O'Leary, who is the author of The Flat Share. This does have a very different looking cover in the US. This is the UK cover, which I definitely prefer. I love the UK cover of The Flat Share, and the US cover of The Flat Share really didn't do anything for me. I think the US cover of The Switch is even worse. That's my coffee machine beeping. It's been working hard today. Yeah, I don't get what they've done. I get that it's a different market, but I've heard some people be really put off by the US cover of The Flat Share. They didn't want to pick it up because it was all pink and pastely, but the UK cover has got that bed with the cups of tea. It's fabulous. My edition has the sprayed edges as well, so this is the UK cover of The Switch, and that's why I'm showing it to you, because it's just a better cover. It was an amazing storyline and features an older heroine as well. So if you are missing seeing older women in books, definitely read The Switch. And again, it has that message about phones and the internet and switching off from work and taking a break and slowing down a little bit, which I think we're all kind of realizing a little bit right now, but highly recommend that one. Have a review of it on the blog, so you can go and see my full thoughts there, obviously. And speaking of series and parts in a series being released, the Meet Me at Pebble Beach series, the new series by Bella Osborne, is being released every 2 weeks. So we had part 1, 2 weeks later we had part 2, and I read part 1 in March, but in April I read parts 2, 3 and 4 because I had early copies of them. So exciting. But parts 4 releases, parts 2, 3 and 4 all released in May, and the bind up of all 4 parts comes out 2 weeks after part 4 as well, so there's not long to wait for these ones. This is a serialized novel set in and around Brighton, and has a homeless character, a character who is being very close to being homeless and kind of makes her own luck when her luck runs out. It also features some non-straight characters as well. go for you, Bella Osborne. And I really enjoyed this series. Highly recommend it. And if you're looking for small things to pick up right now as well, it's very good as like a small escapism, reading for a couple of hours and then you've read that whole part. Or if you're struggling to finish things right now as well, it can give you that sense of, I finished this book. So part 2 is In Too Deep. Look at those gorgeous beach huts. Part 3 is Sink or Swim, this lovely purpley one. And part 4 is Seize the Day. And you can read them as that, or you can wait until the 28th of May and read the entire bind up from start to finish and spend your whole time in Brighton. But if you're looking for those shorter parts, then I do highly recommend them, and you only have to wait 2 weeks for the next one to be released as well. So yes, there we have it. That section was ebooks. Now we're moving on to physical books. I read the last couple of books that I had to read in this year's Quick Reads releases. You might remember last month and the month before, I read the first few Quick Reads releases, but during my About Books readathon, I read Darkness Rising by A.A. Dhand. Nope, this was during the reading rush. Oh my goodness. Don't know what I'm saying, clearly need some more coffee. I read Darkness Rising by A.A. Dhand, which is the Inspector Harry Verdi mystery series, part 0.5. So this is the introduction to him, and I'm not gonna lie, I am interested in reading more of this series. And you know I don't normally read detective novels, police procedurals, but this one is set in Bradford, and Harry is, I believe he's Sikh and his wife is Muslim. I might have got that the wrong way round. But it's an interesting dynamic between the two of them, and then it's an interesting dynamic with him on the force in Bradford as well. And so I'm intrigued to hear more from him. And then we have This Is Going to Hurt by Adam Kay, which has been extracts picked out of the original full-length book, and they've been put together and shortened and simplified for this Quick Reads version. And I do have a reading vlog coming up featuring all of the Quick Reads that came out in February in the UK, and so make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss that one coming your way. Then another physical book that I read this month, I finally got round to reading Cinders and Sparks, Goblins and Gold. It's too shiny and sparkly for the camera. I love that. This one is the 3rd book in this middle grade series by Lindsey Kelk, because it wouldn't be a video on this channel if I didn't mention Lindsey Kelk. But this one was lovely and funny, and so about like identity is what you make it and not what you're born into. And I just love that message, and I love the humor, and I sat down and I read it from start to finish one Sunday afternoon and had just a right good time. It was very good. Highly recommend if you haven't read them. It turns that Cinderella fairy tale on its head, and so if you're looking for gifts at the moment as well for perhaps children that you can't get to see, family members maybe, the Cinders and Sparks series would make really good gifts right now, because I'm sure we're all looking for different things to read with our little ones. Then on to some of the Paige Toon books that I read. I read the physical copy of The Sun in Her Eyes, which was of course a reread for me, and so I do have a review of this one on my blog. It was lovely to reread this one. I'd forgotten a lot of what happened. I remember reading this one in basically one sitting when it came out, and this one is also one of my signed Paige Toon novels as well, so it was nice to revisit it and read it again. And as I said, Paige Toon read along if you haven't seen it. If I haven't already linked it up here, I will link it up there for you in case you want to join in with our final 4 books, which I will talk about in my May TBR. Subscribe so you don't miss that one. Then because we read the conclusion of the, so because we're reaching the end of our Paige Toon series, let me see how I'm putting this, we read the final short story in One Perfect Christmas by Paige Toon. So I did actually finish reading this one this month, because the final one that links up with that, I believe, is the one that links with The Last Piece of My Heart, which we read and I listened to on audiobook. Also on audiobook from Paige Toon, I read The One We Fell in Love With. This is the proof copy. It's not as good as the actual finished cover, but again, I have a review of it, have a video review which I will leave linked up here, and I have a blog review which will be linked in the description box. And another one I also have a video review of, so you can go away and watch that one, is 5 Years From Now. It was interesting rereading this one because when I read this one the first time, and to some extent The One We Fell in Love With, they made me cry so much. They absolutely broke me. And I listened to them on audiobook this time, both of them. And I think that maybe it was the audiobook or the fact that I knew what was going to happen, but I didn't cry reading them the second time around. And so I was kind of, yeah, interested, and I did put off starting this one for a little bit because I was worried that I was going to cry again, and I don't think I could handle that right now. But on a reread, because I knew what was going to happen, I read them. But as I say, I have video reviews of both of those, so you know how passionately I feel about these books. And then finally, the final Paige Toon read of April was If You Could Go Anywhere, and this is a signed copy that my mum got me, but I did read this on audiobook the first time I read it, this time last year, because obviously Paige Toon releases her novels around about the same time, and The Minute I Saw You is on my May TBR because it's coming out in 2 weeks. So exciting. But yeah, I listened to this one on audio last year, and I listened to it again, and it was interesting rereading. I don't think I necessarily would have chosen to reread that one if we hadn't been doing the reread, because it's quite different from the others, but I'm still really excited to read the new one when it comes out on ebook on the 14th of May. See my May TBR to talk about that one a little bit more. And then some other audiobooks I have to tell you about. I read Self-Made by Alelia Bundles, and this is based on the life of Madam C.J. Walker. This is non-fiction. I listened to the audiobook. It was about 16 hours, and I just posted a book versus TV show of this one because of course they have a limited series based on this book on Netflix. It's 4 parts, and you can go away and watch that video to see my thoughts on it. Then we have Open Book by Jessica Simpson, which I listened to on audio because it is narrated by Jessica Simpson, and I listened to this one mostly during the mini low-key Bout of Books readathon. I enjoyed it. It was interesting to hear about Jessica Simpson. It does get very religious in parts. She talks about her religion quite a lot. It's interesting because she reads it when she gets upset. It kind of sounds like she's crying a little bit as she's narrating it, which is slightly off-putting when you're listening to it. But then I don't know if I would be expecting her to be matter-of-fact about something that was upsetting. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that one. If somebody's reading their own book and it comes to an upsetting point, do you want to hear the fact that they're crying or not so much? I don't know. It kind of, I mean, it didn't put me off, but it just floored me a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't expecting it. And then I listened to In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, which is a novel. This is a love story, but not the love story you're expecting. We have a love story based around a friendship in this novel, and it's quite different from anything else I've read recently. It's a short read. It's definitely a quick read, and I know a lot of people have been put off because it is quite different, but it does say on the front cover it's a love story, but not the one you're expecting, so be prepared for that. But I really enjoyed it. I loved the setting. It got me, and I read the audiobook all in one. I listened to all the wonderful New York adventures, all very exciting. And then I listened to, just trying to find it here, here it is. Oh, also during the Bout of Books readathon, I listened to Undercover Bromance, which is the second book in the Bromance Book Club series by Lyssa K. Adams. I just don't know what it is about these books. They just don't quite hit the spot for me. but they almost do. And so this is why I was prepared to listen to book 2. I don't know. I liked being back with the book club. I like the sex in this book, but there's just something that's not quite there. I have thought about maybe whether it's the humour, because I'm used to the British humour in my rom-coms and this is American humour. I don't know. You know, if you've been watching my videos for a while and you think you might know what's missing in this series for me, why I'm not quite on board yet, but I'm still reading them, let me know, because I'm intrigued. I'm trying to work it out and I'm giving too much headspace to it. But I read it, it was all right. I don't know what more to say about it. Sex was good. It was nice being back with the book club. I don't really have an awful lot more to say about it. With my lovely friend Hayley, I read The Liberation of Brigid by Patricia Scanlon. Then I listened to What Have I Done by Laura Dockrill. This was an audiobook I actually pre-ordered, and so this landed in my Audible account on release day. And this is her memoir about surviving postnatal mental illness. It is so open and honest. I highly recommend the audiobook because she narrates it herself. It's basically what it says on the tin, but I just love the fact that we have her insight on her experience as well as what she's been told from her family members, and she's obviously come out the other end of this, and so it's really reassuring but also eye-opening and heartbreaking at the same time. And I just, obviously, if you don't find this triggering, highly recommend it. If you do find this triggering, exercise care warnings, obviously, but it was amazing and I highly recommend the audio. I love listening to Laura Dockrill speak anyway. Big fan on this channel of her and just love her stuff. Then I listened to The Wives by Taryn Fisher, which was on my TBR. So many people had told me to read this one. It's a bit of a thriller, unreliable narrator. I didn't know what was going on until the very end, and there was some moments for me. So if that's your kind of thing, highly recommend. And then I also listened to, as part of my social distance book fest panel reading, Salty Bittersweet by Mayra Cuevas, and this one is just full of delicious food. Again, it's coming of age, it's identity, it's family, it's food, it's competition, it's like women in haute cuisine, like why are there not more female Michelin starred chefs? It's got everything and I really enjoyed it. Highly recommend the audio, but make sure you've got some like pastry and French omelettes and crepes to hand because you're going to be hungry for sure. You might even need some soup. There's even some soup in here and I was like, oh, I'm really craving soup now. Oh. But you can hear her talk about all of that in that panel, and that is everything I have to tell you about. As I say, I read everything I put on my TBR. I have some readathon vlogs where you can see me reading these books, and I have that reading vlog of my quick reads coming up. Make sure you are subscribed so that you don't miss that. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what was your favourite book in the month of April, or if you have the answer to why I can't quite get into the Bromance book club series, let me know in comments as well. Thank you so much for watching. I will have more bookish content coming up for you, including my May TBR, so subscribe so you don't miss it. Thank you for watching.